nonprofits, half nonprofits, especially back then, even 10 years ago, nonprofits always lag in the business world about different kind of stuff. And so as businesses were experiencing more consulting than ever before in the first decade of the 2000s, nonprofits have gotten into that more in this last decade. But in 2010, I mean, half of nonprofits didn't know consulting was, or the leadership didn't. And, of the other half, about 40% of those didn't think that they need it or didn't have the money for it. And then about the 10% left that actually wanted it, well, maybe they, like, the only people you could go help was maybe somebody who wanted it, maybe somebody who had the money, and their timing of need matched up with my timing of availability, and their need actually matched up with something I could help with. And that was really, really complex. And so, but if I could align those things, their time, their need, their finances, whatever, I could actually help somebody. Well, the biggest factor started being around the finances. And so, so that's why we structured our whole thing as a nonprofit, where we could raise money, basically put me on mission to go help people and go knock on doors and go figure out things that we were passionate about. And so what we decided to do was we started dreaming up what are problems we want to solve. And then we tried to figure out who are the, or we tried to figure out what are the problems we want to solve. And then we try to figure out what are the root causes to those problems, right? Mm-hmm. So, and then what are the people or organizations that are working on those root causes? And then we would go try to knock on their door and say, hey, what are you doing? My name's John. Can I meet you? Can I take you out to lunch? Can I hear about the work you're doing? And then I try to figure out, is there an opportunity I could help? It's not even like a problem you could solve. It could be like an opportunity to maximize. Mm-hmm. And so as we thought through, like, I'll take just for example, right now, we do a lot of work with kids, and specifically of programs of mentoring. But that all started with looking at the injustice of the unequal treatment and incarceration rates of African American males. Mm-hmm. Like, that was a problem that I said, like, this can't be right. There's got to be a lot of problems here. Whether or not these people are rightly in jail, right, or misconvicted, or whatever the problem is, there's way too many of our African American brothers in jail. That is way that there's a problem. Okay. So then studying down and trying to figure out, all right, what do PhD scientists and researchers and different people and opinionated whatever say are the root causes of those problems, whatever it is: lack of education, lack of mentorship, drugs, gangs, whatever, right? A corrupt system, racism, all those kind of things, whatever, right? And then we would go look over and figure out what organizations or people were working on those issues. And then that's when we decide who can we go help. And then honestly, we would try to figure out where can we be most helpful. Like there might be an organization that works with, I don't know, gang work, right? Well, that organization we might not be able to be helpful with them specifically. They may have nothing to help, but it might be really important. It's just that we got nothing to help with, versus another organization that does after school sports mentoring. We thought, oh my gosh, this is something I think we can help scale. This is something I think we can whatever. And it honestly may not be the most important factor in the whole system, but it was something where we could help really make a difference. So in that piece of the pie. And sometimes we were lucky where it got to be the most important thing in the system, like mm-hmm. education or whatever. And so, so that's where we would try to go figure out how to make it better. And honestly, we didn't have anything in mind other than what are they working on? What are they doing? And then could we see gaps? Could we see whatever? And could you be like a borrowed leadership, mm-hmm. Thing to be able to help them grow that kind of stuff? And that's where it all started. That's where the passion started. That's where the problem solving started. That's where the networking started. And we just started pursuing that kind of work and being proactive with it. We define leadership at City Leadership as taking initiative for the benefit of others. And however we're gifted and wired. And that's what I was trying to do back then. And that's what we try to model right now.
And so you move here, you know what you want to do, you know the career trajectory that you're on, you know that you're passionate about helping people and making people better, making their organizations better, making their missions kind of come to fruition. How, when you got here, you had to simplify in some ways because Memphis comes with its own challenges, and I'm sure that they are few and far between in some way, shape, or form. But when you got here, you had to simplify and kind of hone in on a few select ones. How, as a leader and someone that had just got here, how were you able to do that? Did you consult friends? Did it develop based off of your own personal passions? Like, walk me through that.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that, Memphis has a unique scenario that has a lot of ripple effects. And some people see as a major disadvantage. I see it as a very unique and special thing. And, but, you know, about 30%, about 3 out of 10 people in our city are receive some form of welfare. They're in poverty. And so, for comparison, in Nashville, it's about 1 out of 10. So when we compare ourselves to our sister city over there, and people think about, well, then their economy, their whatever. When 9 out of 10 people don't need welfare assistance, you can do a little bit different in the economy than when only 7 out of 10 here. And so, but the amount of poverty that was here just seemed to be the thing that we should focus on, right? Like out of everything that you could possibly do, right? Whether it's the environment or all sorts of other stuff, right? Whatever it is. So everything just seemed to come back to poverty. And I think that I didn't come to Memphis because there was poverty, but I didn't leave Memphis because there was poverty. I just fell in love with this city. I fell in love with the collision of different races, different cultures, different personalities, all these different neighborhoods, all these different socioeconomic classes, and how wonderful it was. I always say, Memphis is this amazing place, has big city amenities and this hometown feel. And I feel known and I enjoy this place, whatever. And so when I fell in love with the place, I didn't pick Memphis as a place to go help. I fell in love with Memphis, and it was a place that I felt responsible. I felt like, hey, this is my hometown now, and I'm wired to help. Not everybody is, and not everybody's supposed to. Like we all have different roles. Some people are wired to help me help others, right? I'm wired to help, leaders, like our clients who are leaders, right? Whether it's, Eric Ballantyne or Ken Stortz or, whoever, right? I mean, we could just go through the whole list of, Nashantha Brown at Soulsville or whatever. I'm wired to help them. And oftentimes they're helping their staffs, and then their staffs are actually on the front lines, either helping people or helping volunteers, right? So this plays out in different angles of whatever. But once I fell in love with the city, and once I realized it was my hometown, and my passion for me becoming more of who I am was coming out, and then all that just aligned. And so I didn't have to necessarily pick whatever, and so I just wanted to get involved. Yeah. And then when you think about problems you want to solve, definitely a lot of things came back to race. Living as a white man, but being a minority in my city, it's definitely a totally different experience than almost anywhere else I would live in this country. And it's a place where I get to take a position of getting to follow the real leadership of this community. And I look to them and say, like, hey, how can I be helpful for this thing? And what is my role here? And oftentimes I'm looking, going, all right, this is where I can be, most helpful in that. And so, looking to learn from my African-American brothers and sisters on, where they see the city going. And then just, as I was seeing that happen over and over again, I got really obsessed with, thinking, all right, what if I could help leverage a scenario where I could recruit, whether that's locally or nationally, people who are passionate about solving problems. What if I could get those people to move to Memphis, join all this work that's happening, whether it's at the homeless shelter or at the school or after school program or wherever? If I could help them, whatever, and if I could recruit them here to help, not only would they actually be able to make a difference in these kids' lives, oftentimes it was kids we're working with, and that would help out for the long run. And we're really preparing the next generation to have the education that they need, the opportunities they need, the mentors they need to be able to break the quote unquote cycle of poverty, right? Mm-hmm. But also, I knew that I could be a part of recruiting really passionate, talented people who care about other people, and that having those people in the city, if I could spend a decade recruiting thousands of those people to the city, that would add to a tipping point of people who wanted to love their neighbor as themselves and be an optimistic voice and fall in love with the city the same way I did.
Yeah.
And so those two things combined, like those two things individually are both really cool. But if I could recruit people to actually help problem solve now, what ends up happening is if you start that in 2010, well, by 2030, not only have I recruited a bunch of 20-year-olds in one decade that are now 40, 35, 45 years old, right, that are like care about the city and do whatever and are great neighbors and leaders and all that kind of stuff. But all these 5, 10, 15-year-olds that they were loving on, in the past decade, now by 2030, right, are anywhere from 20 to 35 years old themselves, and they're able, to be all the things that they dream of being and being impactful and being whatever. And so, and I knew that those two momentums could collide, that I could just, in 2010, what I was thinking about was, what are we going to do over the next decade so that 2020 to 2040 is unreal for Memphis? Mm-hmm. And that's what got me so excited.
And something that you probably didn't realize back in 2010 when you started City Leadership is that you were not only creating an avenue for yourself to get involved, but you were creating an avenue for Memphians to get involved. Something that I will always remember is, I grew up in Arlington. I didn't know anything about the city of Memphis. I couldn't tell you where Midtown was or where it began and where downtown ended. I couldn't tell you anything about the city, but I knew that I wanted to leave because I didn't think that opportunities were here. But by just you getting on the ground and doing the work and creating City Leadership, which then gave birth to campaigns like Choose 901, Teach 901, Serve 901, the Choose 901 alumni program, you incited something in not just people that you could recruit to come and make Memphis better, or people that have yet to see the potential in Memphis, but you have incited this fire beneath Memphians who didn't see the potential in Memphis themselves. Choose 901 is the reason why I stuck in Memphis, and City Leadership is the reason that I'm still here to this day. So I just think that's so powerful that you wanted to get involved, but you gave our community a way to kind of rally behind and get involved just within the city of Memphis themselves. That's just it's a very interesting, just being a part of it and kind of having a behind the scenes perspective of it, knowing that this isn't necessarily what you set out to do. You wanted to make nonprofits and nonprofit leaders and organization leaders better, but really you made Memphians better.